At that point, I had 2.5 years left. And these guys, they weren't just the best here, they'd be the best even in hell. Honestly, he got to us with the truth, plain and simple. It wasn't like he said anything super deep or poetic. He just hit home because he was real. No sugarcoating. When they lined us up on the parade ground, he just laid it out straight. It's a total shit show. Fucking slaughter. And the thing is, we already knew it. When he walked up and started talking, we thought it was gonna be the same old crap. Someone else trying to feed us bullshit, like always. But it turned out the opposite. We just didn't see it coming. He straight up said, "It's a slaughter out there." And if we were okay with that, we'd be heading straight into the meat grinder. He told us flat out that out of everyone who steps forward, only a handful might make it back. Maybe none at all. No fluff, no speeches. He just told it like it is. He asked, "Do you want to be on board?" We said yeah. We just stepped forward and went. Honestly, what we were really following was the truth. At first, Viktorovich didn't promise us a damn thing. It was only later, after they'd picked the volunteers, that they laid out all the details, that if we carried out our combat tasks properly, we'd get rewarded and pardoned. But if he had started with that part, maybe he wouldn't have gotten as many of us to volunteer. We would have just thought it was more empty promises from some suit, some big cheese. We stopped believing in fairy tales a long time ago. It's always better to just say it how it is, even if it's a bitter truth. At least it's the truth. He told us the truth. That's why everyone followed him. We all had different sentences. Some had already done 5 years. Some were doing their second stretch. Some were deep into their second decade. I had 2.5 years left by that time. Some had even less. There were guys who only had a month or two left. Seriously, just a couple of months. And they still volunteered, even though they could have just sat it out and walked free without risking their lives 2 months later. We all signed a 6-month contract. They pulled us together in 24 hours, and by the second day, we were already good to go. We loaded onto the plane and took off. The whole trip to our destination was kept under wraps. From the plane straight into prisoner transport vans, from those vans onto helicopters, then back into the vans again. It wasn't like they do it now, all out in the open. We were the first wave, so back then everything was top secret. We arrived under the classified stamp, completely off the radar. No one knew we were coming. No one was waiting for us. Even the personnel at the unit we were sent to had no idea. A lot of them just thought we were regular volunteers from somewhere in Russia. They didn't know we'd been pulled out of prison and dropped off there. Later, as we started talking and getting to know each other, they figured out we were inmates. And after that, they started keeping a closer eye on us. At that point, the regular military guys didn't really know how we'd act. Even during training, you could tell they were thinking, what if what we teach them gets used against us? Like, if we were gonna take off in all directions one day, if an opportunity turned up. At first, that's exactly what they all thought. But after we went through the full training, gave it our all, stuck to the program, they started to see we weren't the kind of inmates they'd thought on day one. They realized we were warriors at heart, straight-up fighters who came to do the job. And little by little, during the training, that shift happened. They started to get it, started to trust us more. After that, they handed us weapons. We got fully geared up. Uniforms, boots, rifles, everything. Trained and armed, and just like that, we were sent straight to the front lines. They spread us out across the entire flank. 10 guys here, 5 over there, 15 somewhere else, 20 in another spot, depending on the unit. The first group of volunteers from prisons were pulled from just 2 camps, one in St. Petersburg and the other in Nizhny Novgorod. Those were the very first 2 groups. I can't give the exact number, but from our prison alone, it was around 300 guys. In total, there were around 600 to 700 men in the first group. We were just assault troopers. Among us, there were no artillery guys, no automatic grenade launcher operators. We were all just assault troopers. At most, we had some group weapons. Not even snipers in the beginning. Just machine gun crews and assault teams. That's it. Only later, after some time had passed, they started training guys for artillery, AGLs, and other positions. Once the command realized we were real fighters, they started to trust us more and more, to the point where some of our own guys, who came in as ex-cons, ended up becoming commanders. They saw us in action. That's when they really understood who we were. I spent just over 2 months as an assault trooper, hit target after target, and the command saw the kind of fighter I was. After that, I got promoted, became the commander of the first assault group. In our unit, when a task is given, we get it done. No questions. They say what needs to be done. We go and do it. When they asked me, "Can you handle it?" I said, "I can." But later, when they actually gave me the position and I got my first assignment as a commander, that's when it really hit me. It's one thing when you're only responsible for yourself, and it's a whole different story when you're leading other fighters into battle. In the W Company, the musicians, commanders lead from the front, not from the back, not hiding in some trench. They're the first to move. They set the task and they go in ahead. The whole unit follows behind them. When a commander takes the lead, it lifts the whole unit's morale. And that's exactly how I went through it with the guys. All the way to the end of my contract. Right up until the moment I got wounded myself. They gave us the task. Enemies about 3 clicks out, give or take. Then recon goes in, ground and air. That means we launch a drone, pinpoint their position, gather all the intel we can, where they are, what they've got, how they're set up, everything down to the smallest detail. If the drone can't get a full read or nail down all the details, then we send in close recon, meaning 2 to 5 guys for reconnaissance. They move in as close as possible to the enemy, sometimes getting within 100 meters of their position. Real risky stuff, but sometimes that's the only way to get the full picture. And once they're in close, they stay there for as long as it takes, sometimes a day or 2, to gather as much intel as possible on the enemy, what kind of unit it is, how many of them, when they rotate or switch shifts, what weapons they've got. They're out there with no food, no supplies, just lying low in the bushes, so to speak, doing their job, collecting every bit of info to pass back to our unit. After 2 or 3 days of that, once they've got what they need, they pull back to the starting point. All that intel gets reported to the unit's command. Then our commanders decide how we're going to storm the position. They calculate what kind of resources we'll need to pull it off. That's the job of recon and close recon, to prep everything before the real fight starts. Only after that do the assault groups move out. Assault troopers go in, backed by artillery. The artillery can be all sorts of calibers depending on the mission. That's how we got things done. Only forward, not a single step back. It was either die on the spot or push ahead. 2 assault groups. Each one had anywhere from 5 to 20 guys, depending on how many enemy troops were holding the position. The terrain was different every time. Sometimes a tree line, sometimes buildings, sometimes rocky outcrops. Could be dugouts, could be concrete bunkers. The enemy was like cockroaches, everywhere. They had tons of ammo, seriously stocked up. Meanwhile, our unit was small and low on supplies. We pulled off missions with next to nothing in our hands. Had to get creative just to survive. We'd strap hand grenades to RPG rockets. We got inventive with plastic explosives too. We even reinforced pickup trucks, mounted heavy machine guns like UTIOs on them, and rolled out on assaults using those beat-up trucks. We had one job, and that job had to be done every single day. Our gear was working, our minds were working, our hands were working 24/7, all to get the mission done. Speaking of fear, I only felt fear once during the entire contract. It hit me right at the end. After everything, after serving my time inside, after mentally and emotionally prepping myself for combat, after almost pushing through a 6-month contract where I risked my life every damn day, that fear showed up when I had just a few days left, when home was finally in sight. And throughout that entire contract, I didn't think about home at all, not even a little. All I thought about was getting the job done, carrying out the missions day after day. As long as I had the strength, the grit, the guts, everything I'd built up inside me, I was just all about fighting and finishing the task. I didn't think much if I was gonna make it to the end or die. I just kept going forward. And when I'd been out there for over 4 or 5 months, that's when it started to hit me. Home wasn't some distant thought anymore. It was actually close. Up until then, it felt like just doing a job. But when you start getting closer and closer to discharge, when there's only a little bit of time left, that's when the fear kicks in. The fear of dying a few days before the contract ends. This fear gets all tangled up with a deep, raw desire to live. The whole time during your contract, you know your only job is to storm positions. But by the end, man, all you want is just to stay alive. That was the only time I felt fear. Right at the end. Fear of not making it home with just a few days left till discharge. Out there, it's not about friendship. It's brotherhood. You might not even know the guy. He just showed up and boom, he's your brother. When you're pushing forward and someone gets hit, wounded or killed, it's not just some dud who's gonna run under fire to drag you out. It's your brother that throws himself in there with no hesitation. Real brothers in every sense of the word. And if you've never been in that kind of situation, you'll never fully get what I mean when I say brother. That's why we call it combat brotherhood, not some combat friendship. A brother and a friend, two totally different things. Who's closer than your own brother, especially a brother you've been through hell with? Every assault guy out there knows. If shit hits the fan, if something goes sideways, the brothers will come. No hesitation, no second thoughts. That's the kind of bond we had. Every assault comes with losses, wounded and killed. That's just how it is. But no matter how many we lost, our morale never dropped. There was no such thing as turning back or breaking down after taking hits. Yeah, our brothers were dying out there every single day. But our assault troopers are the best in this world. We'd be the best even in hell if we end up there. Life doesn't end with death. Afterlife is real. That's why we didn't mourn out loud for the fallen. Because as long as we remember them, as long as we honor their memory, they're still alive, even here, in this reality. You've gotta always remember your fallen brothers. Yeah, it hit hard, realizing that out of 10, only 6 or 7 were still standing. But even so, they're always with us, always in our heads and hearts. That's what our combat brotherhood is all about. That's our strength. No matter what happens, we don't take a single step back. At that time, we were holding down 3 positions: the Klenovaya exit, the iron-wooded forest, and the route toward Vesyolaya Dolina. And from there, we just kept pushing, all the way toward Bakhmut. So here's how it works. There's an assault unit. That unit can include multiple squads under it, like 5, 10, sometimes even 20 people per squad. The whole assault unit has its own commander, the commander of the assault unit. Then within each squad there's a squad leader or a platoon commander depending on the size. And no matter the overall numbers, whether it's 5, 10, or 20 squads, there's always one dedicated recon squad attached to the unit. Strictly reconnaissance. That's their only job. Eyes and ears ahead of the rest. That's the squad that always moves ahead of the main assault unit. They handle recon, close recon, and recon in force. All the dirty work up front. They gather all the intel, enemy positions, numbers, movements, and pass that info to all the other assault squads. That's how we move, step by step, with eyes ahead and everyone on the same page. I was in a recon squad. We had our own commander, and besides him, there was a sergeant major and a deputy commander. Then that recon squad gets broken down further into smaller teams. And those teams are the actual assault troopers. So yeah, one squad is made up of multiple teams. And in each of those teams there's a team leader. Under him, the assault guys. Could be 5, could be 10 per team. Some squads had 15, some had 20. Depends on the mission and how many guys we had. That's how it was structured. I was a team leader in the assault group, commander of the first assault group. Why the first? Because I wasn't just a commander and an assault trooper. I was also a combat engineer and sapper. So I went in first, clearing the way, breaching, doing the tough work up front. When the enemy pulls back, they leave behind all kinds of nasty stuff. Booby-trapped objects, tripwires, mines. Their engineering game is no joke. We had to be learning every single day just to keep up. It wasn't enough that I had been trained as a combat engineer back in the army. During the assaults, I had to learn from the enemy too. Figuring things out on the go, adapting to whatever new tricks they left for us. Because out there, man, you see some crazy stuff. They use motion sensors, day-night detectors, even video surveillance systems. It's not just old-school tripwires. It's next level. There's all kinds of setups and traps, and I'm the one going first. As commander of the assault group, I'm the one clearing the path, checking for mines, making sure the road's safe before the rest move in. I'm sweeping the way forward, step by step. When needed, I'd also gather intel myself, full-on recon, and then it would move into recon in force. That's when you're already taking over enemy positions. After that, all my teams would move in, covering my left and right flanks, backing me up. That's how I fought, as the commander of the first assault group in the recon squad. Up front, always first in, always clearing the way. The hardest fight was right at the end, right before Bakhmut. Yeah, that was the real deal. 4 days straight of fighting, no sleep, no food, nothing. The enemy had pulled all their forces into one place, that one city. They packed it full, mercenaries, gear, equipment, mortars, tanks, MLRS systems, armored vehicles. Just waves of people, endless. And at that point we had 2 recon groups that made it up to Bakhmut. That's when the real grind began. The first 2 groups were Kopeyka and Semyorka. Kopeyka moved in on the right flank, and I was on the left. When we got up close to Bakhmut, our mission was clear: draw the enemy's attention and take the first hit head-on, both from the right and the left. Our task was to absorb the first wave and hold the line, so the rest of the assault groups could move up to the city with minimal losses, and surround it in a half-circle to lock it down. We were basically the distraction, buying time and space for the others to close in and get ready to hit the city hard. While we were holding the line, waiting for the rest of the groups to reach the city, we went through our own version of Stalingrad. For 4 days straight, it felt like every shell in the world was flying at us, all calibers. It was non-stop, like the sky was raining steel. In those 4 days of fighting, we sustained heavy casualties, wounded and killed and wounded, non-stop. The blasts were insane, just constant. Supersonic shells were flying at us, we were getting ripped apart. To give you an idea, a supersonic round, if it lands even 10 meters away, anyone in that range doesn't just get hit. They're damn near vaporized, blown to pieces, atomized. That's the kind of hell we were in. Doesn't matter what you've got on, helmet, body armor, rifle. A shell like that'll tear a person to pieces, straight up. Not even from shrapnel, just pure impact. The force alone rips you apart. Incoming and outgoing, that's what we called it. Means landing and shooting respectively, like when a tank fires, or a mortar, or any kind of artillery. First there's that boom. That's the outgoing, the moment the shell leaves the barrel. Then a second or two later, incoming, when it hits the target. If you hear both, the outgoing and the incoming, you've got a couple of seconds to react. You can hit the dirt, move, do something. But when it's a supersonic shell, different story. You don't even hear the shot. It's moving faster than sound. So what happens? You just get the impact, instantly. That's the incoming, the explosion on the ground. And only after the shell's already hit and gone off, you hear the sound of the actual outgoing shot. But by that point, it's too late. And those are the kinds of shells that were flying at us. That's the scariest shit. No warning, no time to react. Same thing with those Polish mortars, the ones the Ukrainian forces were using. You don't hear a damn thing until it's too late. Even with tanks, same deal. First comes the hit, the explosion, the incoming. And only after that do you hear the shell being fired. The outgoing, the sound gets to you with a delay. But by then the shell's already done its job. You're just walking, not suspecting a thing. Dead silence. Like graveyard quiet. You've got a mission, a target. You're heading somewhere trying to get something done. And then, in a split second, boom, total fucking chaos. Just like that. Instantly you've got WIAs, wounded in action, some straight-up KEs, killed in action, and maybe just a few lucky ones who have a chance to remain in one piece in such situations. It happens that fast. No heads up, no time to think, just destruction. You pretty much can't survive those shells. Straight up, no way out. They're just that nasty. And on top of that, there's even worse stuff. Yeah, we felt it firsthand too. White phosphorus. That shit's a nightmare. Shrapnel, cluster munitions, total chaos. Take shrapnel rounds for example. The shell flies out packed with thousands of tiny metal needles, like actual little spikes. It explodes mid-air and breaks into mini bombs, each one spreading those needles all over the place. Pure hell from the sky. And each of those cassette bomblets spreads out those tiny metal needles. That's the shrapnel. Shrapnel's made to tear through flesh. It's meant for infantry, for people. So when assault troops are moving in and that shit starts raining down, it's basically a guaranteed death sentence. The only way you survive shrapnel is if you're inside an armored vehicle or dug deep in a trench somewhere, and even then it's not a guarantee. Those things can rip through soil too. It's straight up hell on earth when that stuff hits. If you're out in the open, it's 100% death. There's no escaping it unless you're in a tank or an IFV. If you're not in one of those or not buried in a trench, you're done. That stuff explodes, and in 1 second, a single person ends up with 1,000,000 needles jammed into their body. You end up looking like a hedgehog, like a damn porcupine, just full of metal spikes. It's brutal. Next up, phosphorus. What's phosphorus? Same deal. Total nightmare. They fire the shell, it blows up in the air, and then you see it. That chemical fire raining down like a dome. There's no hiding from it. Even if you're sitting inside a tank, it'll burn through it. You're in a trench? Doesn't matter. It'll burn through the dirt, man. It melts through everything. No armor, no cover helps. Nowhere is safe when that shit comes down. Because while that phosphorus dome is coming down, the wind pushes it. Just slightly, but enough to shift the whole thing. Your only chance is to outrun it. Literally just get the hell out from under it. And if you manage that, maybe, just maybe, you survive. But even then, man, it's not easy. Time turns into seconds in that moment. Split-second decisions mean life or death. Those are the scariest damn shells the enemy uses. And yeah, I call them filthy goddamn bastards. I don't even have the words. What they've done, it's not just against international conventions, it's against everything human, against all logic, all basic decency, denial of life itself, call it whatever you want. It's beyond conventional war. I don't even know what kind of people they are, seriously, because we don't use phosphorus. We stick to the rules. We follow international conventions. But look at what they're doing now, and even what they've done before. It's just pure disregard for any laws, any humanity. Like, what the hell are they even thinking? As we pushed toward Bakhmut, there was a village in our path, Ivanhrad. We moved in, and to be clear, it was a living village. When we hit the first street, there were houses on both sides. And in every yard, there were dogs, cats, chickens, even pigs still alive and wandering around. It looked like people had just stepped out for a minute. You walk into a house. There's a pan still on the stove, a warm kettle, like someone was just making tea. Go into the shed. A chicken had just laid an egg. A fully lived-in village, but no people. Ukrainians had cleared the place out on purpose before we got there, kicked everyone out, or forced them underground. So at first glance it felt like the place was still alive, but in reality there wasn't a single soul left, at least on the surface. And right in the middle of that village they'd parked a pickup truck, a white one, spotless, brand new, right in the center of the road, like it was begging someone to come check it out. And that pickup, it was basically a trap. They had damn near all their artillery zeroed in on that exact spot. The whole area was pre-sighted, locked in. They led us into the village on purpose, knowing we'd get drawn to that truck. Because if the fight had broken out in the open fields, on the approach, it would have dragged on. But in the village, they wanted us bunched up, all focused in one area. so they could wipe out the whole group in one hit, or at least half of us. That was the plan, cold and calculated. When I saw that pickup, I knew something was off right away. The first red flag? Man, in that village, in the houses, the kettle had just boiled, still warm, you get me? Everything was alive. Dogs barking, ducks quacking, chickens clucking, all doing their thing. But no people, not a single soul, no enemy, no civilians, just dead silence. And the kettle's still hot, leftovers on the tables. I was like, what the fuck? That's when it hit me. Something ain't right. I knew right away this was bullshit, a straight up trap. They wanted us to roll right in, roll down the main street, all the way to that pickup, and then just hit us, blow the whole group to hell right there. But guess what? It didn't work. They tried to bait us, but we didn't take it. See, we don't just walk in blind. That's not how we roll. When we move in, we do it under cover of our own artillery, and we always use whatever cover we can get. Buildings, structures, trees, trenches, dirt mounds, anything that gives us an edge. We're assault troops, recon guys. We know how to move. We always push forward using cover, never just out in the open like sitting ducks. 'Cause we know, the second you're caught in open ground, that's it. One shell hits and you're a KIA. Gone. Blown to pieces, just like that. The enemy figured we were just a bunch of ex-cons and dumb as hell, that if they dropped a shiny pickup in the middle of the street, we'd all come running like idiots. But nope, that was not the case. We didn't go down the main road. We went behind the houses. I split the group into two and we moved along both flanks, staying low and out of sight. I knew if they started dropping arty, the shrapnel rounds would hit the houses, and we'd be behind them, safe from the worst of it. Plus, behind those houses, there were root cellars, little underground spots. Every backyard had one. So we used all of it. Yards, cover, basements, whatever gave us the edge. I told the guys, if a massive artillery strike kicks off, get into those basements immediately. Move from house to house as fast as possible. Short bursts, never stay exposed too long. And always keep distance from each other. So if a shell lands, it doesn't take out the whole group at once. But again, before you even make a move from one house to the next, you've got to visually spot the next basement. So during the sprint, if artillery suddenly starts hitting, you already know exactly where to dive. Just run and drop straight in. That's the only way to make it through without getting hit. Exactly. You can't have a situation where you duck behind a house, the house gets blown to bits, and now you're just standing there in the open, stunned, exposed, and not knowing where to go. We handled that stretch smart. When we moved into Ivanhrad and the enemy realized their whole setup wasn't working, they had all that artillery dialed in on the pickup, but we never took the bait. Meanwhile, we were already moving into the village, just not the way they expected. Turned out, we were a hell of a lot smarter than they thought, and we weren't gonna be taken down that easy. Ukrainian forces started blasting the whole damn village, just lighting up Ivanhrad from every direction. They went full send, trying to flatten everything, turning the place into splinters. They started wiping out the whole village, straight up, just to bury us under rubble and shells. That day was bright and sunny, but you could barely see the sun 'cause the sky was black from the sheer number of shells flying at us. All calibers, everything they had. The fire was non-stop, insane intensity. You couldn't even see clear sky, just this storm of metal and fire. All you could hear were explosions. All you could feel was shrapnel flying, splinters ripping past, houses burning down right in front of you. Man, I don't even know how to put it into words. The only thing that saved us were those basements. It was just basement to basement, diving from one to the next, non-stop. And the second you'd slide into one, boom, either a mortar lands on top or a drone comes buzzing in. The entrances were tiny, like 1.5 meters, so it was hard for a mortar to land a clean hit. And the basements had thick concrete ceilings, so they held up. But they started sending drones in instead. And we were literally swatting them down with rifles, swinging like baseball bats. I'm not even kidding. It got to that point. There were swarms of drones, like a whole damn hive buzzing overhead. Too many to count. And hiding in the basement wasn't really an option, because if the first couple of shells missed, they'd just dial it in, and by the fourth or fifth time they'd hit the target. Or a drone. Something was gonna get in sooner or later. So we had to keep moving, constantly switching positions. And every time we sprinted from one cover to the next, the enemy infantry would kick in, opening up on us with machine guns and snipers picking us off. Bullets flying, drones buzzing, shells dropping. It was non-stop pressure. Just getting from one house to the next basement, man, that was a whole damn mission on its own. The distance between covers was like 200-300 meters, but those 300 meters under fire, you had to fight your way through every step. Every single sprint was a battle. A lot of our guys didn't make it through that fight. Their infantry was lighting us up, and their artillery was pounding us non-stop. When our own artillery finally started to fire back, they shut it down quick, smashed it hard. We were totally outgunned. Man, it felt like it was 10-1 against us. In our assault unit, we mostly had mortars and SPG-9 anti-tank launchers, whereas they had tanks, heavy guns, the full setup. On top of everything, our artillery was out in the open, posted up in fields and tree lines. Theirs was tucked deep inside Bakhmut, hidden in urban cover, some of it even set up on rooftops of high-rise buildings. They had a massive positional advantage and they would pinpoint and wipe out our artillery fast. Our recon unit commander wounded, his deputy wounded, our senior sergeant also wounded. They crushed our RT in no time. There were only our assault groups left, and whatever reserve was behind us. The support group, which was also our only reserve, they were the ones rotating in to back us up at the front. That was it. No one else behind us. In my assault group, we had just 2 AGS grenade launchers, but one got blown to bits, completely destroyed. The tripod of the other one got ripped off. We had to tape a piece of wood in its place with duct tape, just to keep it semi-steady and be able to fire somehow. Had to constantly readjust it, because if you messed up the angle even a little, you'd risk hitting your own guys. We had a guy, his nickname's Kiwi. He was the commander of the AGS crew. He got hit bad by shrapnel, like really bad. But even after that, he kept covering us with just one busted AGS. A grenade launcher's supposed to sit on a stable tripod, right? Well, since the tripod was busted, he was basically firing that thing on the move, almost from the hip, trying to keep it as steady as he could. He couldn't even properly set it up, because the enemy drones were hunting him constantly. Every time he tried to set the launcher up, boom, they'd try to zero in on him, blowing up every bit of cover around. The enemy was actively hunting him, and that's how it was for 4 straight days. For us, It was our second Stalingrad. We didn't have shit, just light weapons, machine guns, RPGs, ATGMs. That's it. No armored vehicles, no heavy support, nothing. Our units were fairly small. Apart from that, the village of Ivanhrad is in a lowland, and Bakhmut was on higher ground. They could see us like we were on display. They saw we were moving in small groups. We were stretched thin. Whenever their artillery stopped firing, their infantry moved in closer and tried to get us in a half encirclement, a half ring. And to prevent that, we had to keep firing constantly. We had to keep moving in a staggered checkerboard pattern, because if we just stayed in one spot or were advancing straight, they could surround you right away. We constantly had to dash from one basement to another, from cover to cover, non-stop. We were under heavy fire the whole time, doing everything we could to keep their infantry from getting closer. They saw that our main forces were far behind, and it was just us trying to push forward. If we had stopped, they would have zeroed in on us and crushed us. So we had to stretch their lines, keep them busy, keep them from surrounding us in a half ring. We knew our main forces were still behind, but we, the recon assault troops, were already at the very tip of the attack, dragging the enemy into the fight. That's how we spent 4 straight days under intense enemy fire. We didn't even have time to get ammo resupplied. No water, nothing at all. We moved forward in surges. One surge, advance 100 meters. Then the support group brings up ammo, evacuates the wounded and the dead, replaces the ones who are out, and then comes the next surge. That's how we kept pushing. In the end, we fully took Ivanhrad and captured enemy weapons, radio systems, and walkie-talkies. We even heard their radio chatter. They were saying something like, "Who are these guys? We're killing them, and they just keep coming." But the truth was, when they were saying that, I already knew that behind us, in the support group, there was no one left. We were completely spent at that point, burned out, bled out, with massive losses. Ivanhrad is a small village, about 1.5 kilometers long. Before reaching it, we'd fought through multiple kilometers with the same unit, taking over other villages and settlements along the way. But it was in this small village that we suffered the heaviest casualties. By the end of the assault, there were only 8 of us left standing. At the very end, I got on the radio and said goodbye to everyone who was still alive at that point. I honestly thought the next surge would be our last. I had no ammo left. Nothing at all. In the end, here's how it looked. Around 4:30 in the morning, we had just fought off an enemy counterattack, took up new positions, did a roll call, and realized only 8 of us were left. And that's when we started saying our goodbyes to each other, straight up, no drama, just real. And then, out of nowhere, I hear the commander of a unit on the right flank, one of the main forces behind us, come through on comms. He turned his artillery toward my sector and sent in 16 more fighters to back me up. We were supposed to keep pushing forward in the morning. The mission was to completely clear out the remaining enemy forces from Ivanhrad. Even the enemy, after 4 days of non-stop fighting, started to crack, even though they had the advantage from the start. But we held. We held to the end. As soon as we moved out with the reinforcements, the enemy launched a swarm of FPV drones. We couldn't even move forward. They were attacking in packs. It's hard as hell to shoot them down with a rifle. So I grabbed an electromagnetic jammer and started jamming their signal. And right then, a sniper hit me. In our unit, we had that electromagnetic rifle. Back then, they were just starting to roll them out, and we got one to test in the field. Yeah, It was powerful. But man, a pain in the ass to use. Big, bulky, awkward as hell. Looked like a damn blaster from Star Wars. And on top of that, the battery wasn't removable. You had to charge it like a phone, instead of just swapping batteries and keeping it running non-stop. So whenever it died, you had to pull back, find an electric generator or outlet, wait while it charged, then sprint back to the front to use it again. Like seriously, who the hell designed this thing? What kind of dumbass engineers came up with that? I managed to take down a few drones with that thing, but right when I was about to jam another one, that damn blaster starts beeping. I look at the indicator. Battery's dead. And in that exact moment, I had another drone right in my sights. Almost brought it down. And boom! It breaks free and takes off again. Just for the record, those FPV drones had thermal imaging, 360-degree view, and they were loaded with 40mm grenades. No joke, flying death machines. And that drone, the one I almost got, breaks away from the lock cause my damn electromagnetic blaster ran out of juice, and it comes flying straight at me. Because of that piece of shit blaster, I couldn't finish the job and take it down. I couldn't neutralize the drone, and it was heading right for me. As soon as the drone broke loose, I sprinted to another position, got on the radio and told the guys, "My electromagnetic blaster's dead. I need to pull back." Right then, I turn a corner, start moving, and that same damn drone spots me, guides a sniper right onto me. I managed to run maybe 50 meters. Bam! I hit the ground. I'm lying there with that fucking bulky blaster, my rifle slung behind my back, and I'm just trying to figure out what the hell happened. I look up, and the drone's hovering right over me, my legs covered in blood. At first I didn't even realize it was a sniper hit. When that round hit me, the impact was so hard, I swear I almost did a backflip. I look up, and that drone's just hovering over me, dead still, like it's staring me down. If it were a real bird, it would have been looking at me with this creepy little smirk. That's how close it was, just floating above me, watching. The operator behind that drone was probably laughing his ass off, watching me lying there in the dirt with this huge ass contraption, this blaster-looking piece of shit. I don't even know what else to call it. Just this massive, useless hunk of junk in my hands. And in that moment, I realized the drone was just waiting. It was hovering there, waiting for me to call in over the radio and say I was wounded, so a medevac crew would come running, and then that drone could take them all out in one hit. The Ukrainians know we never leave our own behind, that someone would definitely come to evacuate me. And that's exactly why that drone was still hanging above me, just waiting to kill 5 or 6 people at once. So I pulled myself together, and with a shot-up leg, I started crawling. The drone operator could see I was moving, but that I hadn't called for help, which meant no one was coming. And then, that bastard dropped a 40mm grenade on me, just to finish the job. And then, artillery started hitting on top of it all. There was a drainage ditch nearby. I managed to roll into it with my right side, but my left side caught all the shrapnel, so I had not just a bullet wound, but also shrapnel tearing through every exposed part of my body. At that point, I played dead, hoping the drone would leave me alone. There was no other option. If I twitched, they would have opened up on me again. I didn't even look at the drone. I just froze, acting like I was gone. But by the sound of it, I could tell. it was coming down lower. Before it had been hovering at around 80 meters, then it came down trying to check if I was actually dead. In the end, it backed off and flew away. As soon as the drone flew away, I realized that if I didn't do something, I had seconds to live, because I could feel myself draining out. The blood loss was massive. I tried to dress my wound, but I couldn't even figure out where to apply the tourniquet. Everything was soaked in blood and my leg was going numb. I couldn't even feel where exactly I was hit. I tried to apply the tourniquet, but my left arm wasn't working because of the shrapnel. Since the drone had already left, I radioed in to report I was wounded. The guys came running and evacuated me. They pulled me back, first toward the support group, then further back, and eventually to the hospital in Luhansk. The whole evac was fast. Our guys don't mess around, they're on point. At first, the boys dragged me nearly 10 kilometers, across open ground. No vehicles could get close. All of Ivanhrad was under fire, completely in the open. Explosions everywhere, shells flying non-stop. They gave me a Promedol shot, threw on a bandage, hit me with an adrenaline shot, a piece of chocolate, water, whatever they had. They kept me alive. They operated on me in Luhansk. Turned out the bullet had just grazed the bone. The bone itself was intact. It scraped along it and went clean through. I got lucky, real lucky. If it had hit just 1 centimeter lower, it would have shattered my kneecap. And I'd be a cripple for life. Pure luck. They patched me up, operated again, and I spent 2 weeks laid up in the hospital. It took me 2 weeks to feel well enough to start calling everyone to send me back to the front. I knew my boys were still out there. I pulled every string I had, reached out to all my contacts, just to get back into the fight, back to my people. The doctor at the military hospital goes, "Wolf, you're driving me nuts. Knock it off. You've done your part. Rest. That's enough." I kept badgering him, telling him to get in touch with my command, asking him to get me called back, all that. He'd say, "They've got people out there without you. Calm the hell down." But I just kept riding him, wouldn't let it go, until he finally gave in and reached out to my commander. The commander showed up and said, "Enough. Chill out. You've already done your part. Everything that needed to be done, you did it, and then some." I said, "Hell no. My contract's not over. And I'm finishing it to the end." He goes, "All right, I hear you. Pack your stuff. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Next day, they discharged me. He came to pick me up, and we took off. Even though my leg was still bleeding at that point, they were doing 2 bandage changes a day. The wound had started to close up a bit, but it still wasn't fully healed. Didn't matter to me. I just didn't want to be stuck in a hospital. I needed to get back to my guys. Everyone was like that. Soon as one of us felt a little better, he'd rush back to the front. So as we were driving, I started realizing he's not taking me the right way. We were zigzagging through weird back roads, and I was like, "Where are we even going? Our unit's not operating in this direction." He goes, "You'll see soon enough." And sure enough, he ended up taking me to a training center. The commander was like, "If you want to keep working and being useful, here's your unit. Train them. You're an instructor now. Here are the recruits. Your job is to get them ready." So for the rest of my contract, about a month, I worked as an instructor. In that time, I trained 112 soldiers. I even managed to send the first group out to the front line. Out of the 30 guys in that first group, 18 made it back from their first battle by themselves. The rest either wounded or killed. And honestly, in our reality, that's considered a good result. They ended up fighting right in Bakhmut, inside the city itself. And later, the ones who made it, they called me and thanked me for how I trained them. When I was training those recruits, I gave it everything I had. I taught them everything I knew. And to this day, I'm still in touch with the guys from the groups I trained, the ones who made it out alive, even after wounds, after all of it. One of them, as a thank you, tattooed my nickname on his chest. I won't name him or mention the nickname, but I guess that means I did something right. We don't retreat. It's either die on the spot or push forward. Without the musicians, it's tough as hell. Like I said, our group was the first one that came from prison. I spent 2 months as a regular assault trooper, and then I was made commander of an assault group. After that, my commander sent me to upgrade my qualifications. I spent a week training as a combat engineer sapper at the training center. That was right after those 2 months on the ground as a frontline grunt. The timeline went like this. I had done 8 years in prison. Then they pulled us out, brought us to a training center. After that, we were sent straight to the front line, where we spent 2 months as assault troops. After those 2 months, my commander sent me for a week of advanced training. And I remember, when I was heading to that training, riding in the back of a truck, every civilian we passed on the road, whether walking or driving by, they were waving at us, smiling, giving us support. All of them, no exceptions. Kids playing football would drop their game and wave at us as we passed by. And that moment, it hit me deep, straight to the soul. Of course, before that, I already knew why I came to war. I knew we had to protect people and fight the enemy. But when I saw those local kids and civilians, when they were greeting us with smiles and respect, I tried to look each one in the eyes. I was honestly moved to the core. That's when I truly understood why we were there and what life itself is really about. My life, yours, Yulia's, Katya's, Vasya's, Natasha's. What's the point of it all? What do we live for? It's the kids. Kids are our future. My whole life, since childhood, had been leading me to this realization that kids need us, that we have to live for them, love them, respect them, raise them, lift them up, give them what we never had. As a kid, I didn't get any of that myself. And now, looking back, I think maybe that's why I was born, why I survived everything I went through as a kid, just to come to understand this. I came back here to civilian life, big city, peaceful world, but nothing moves me emotionally anymore. All this comfort, all this daily rush, it just doesn't appeal to me. It all feels trivial compared to what I've come to understand about my purpose. When I got back, I went to a church and had confession with the priest. I told him everything I shared in this video. I just wanted to hear his thoughts, and I asked him to forgive my sins so I could move forward and keep living out my purpose, raising the next generation, guiding them, being a mentor. When I was riding in that truck, there was one kid I remember more than anything. The moment I looked at him, something inside me flipped completely. He was just standing there alone. Maybe he was hungry like I used to be. Maybe he had no parents, and there's a war going on around him. In that kid, I saw myself, and it shook me to my core. Later, when I was back in civilian life, I went to a priest, to the church, to ask for a blessing for working with kids, to hear his thoughts, and to make sure I was walking the right path. He told me I'm not to blame for how my life turned out, and that I can and should do this work. And now I have a mission to be part of the military patriotic upbringing of kids. Kids are the future, they're the strength of our country. One day, they'll be the ones at the helm of our nation. That's my purpose now. That's what my life is about. Sooner or later, we'll grow old. We've done everything we could, everything that was in our power. Now all hope is on you. Last year, I held 4 events with kids. Back in the USSR, we had patriotic summer camp programs like Zarnitsa and Orlyonok. Zarnitsa was from 5th to 8th grade, and Orlyonok from 8th to 11th. Nowadays, everyone complains that they can't raise kids right, that they're glued to their phones and gadgets. Yeah, that's happening because they don't see any authority in you. Even in my rough childhood, I had people I looked up to, real role models, especially from sports. This new generation, they're more spoiled. They've got video games, social media, and all that noise. Their attention is completely in the internet. But every kid needs a role model, someone to look up to, someone to follow. For example, combat veterans can be those role models. They can pass on real values to kids. The military patriotic path teaches that in life, there are things way more important than video games and social media. Veterans, through their own experience, know what life is really worth, what duty means, what brotherhood is. And when you share that with kids, they forget about their phones. They sit there, eyes wide, mouths open, listening. They don't care about your past, whether you came from prison or from civilian life. They see the image of a fighter, the image of a protector, and beyond that, veterans can teach real skills, stuff that's actually useful in life, no matter what situation you end up in. Veterans must not be forgotten. They need to be brought into the process of educating kids, integrated into different areas of society. We can't let it be like it was with the veterans of Afghanistan or Chechnya. Back then, society turned its back on them. A veteran might be missing limbs, but he still has a soul. He still carries knowledge, life experience, and real values to pass on. These are people with honor, courage, bravery. Even wounded and broken, they're capable of things most ordinary people can't even imagine. Society needs to give support to veterans through children, and to children through veterans. Bring those two together, and you've got something real. That's how we create understanding in families, respect for elders, and a clear sense of what's right and what's wrong. If we don't start working on this right now, we're going to lose our kids. We'll lose our future. What are most kids doing today? They've got no country, no flag, no role models. They don't care about anything but pleasure and comfort. Some of them are only 10 or 15 years old, and they're already telling their parents to fuck off. How is that normal? But it can all be fixed.